May 8th, everybody, May 8th, Public Safety Committee meeting. We have, I'm just going to say, maybe we have a hard stop at 10 minutes after 9, so we're going to go through as much as we can, and if we skip some things, it's not because we don't think it is important, but because there may be other priority items on this agenda. So, Mr. Metric, where should we begin? I'd like to start right with, number 2, if we could start there.
Okay.
So the folks have the information.
The parking management conversation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, we've been talking internally, and so this is our first opportunity to talk publicly about what's coming in terms of changes to our residential parking permit program. Parking is regulated in 2 main ways, with meters in our downtown area and then with our residential permit program, which allows residents to park in areas that are regulated for 2-hour parking longer than 2 hours. And you have to reside on that street. You don't have to be a property owner, you can be a renter. Present proof of your residency to the borough office, and currently a parking permit is $5 and it's valid for an indefinite amount of time until we make such changes to the program. And we've been discussing those changes to the program. Before I get into the main course, let me talk about the appetizer, which is the residential invitee permit, which was an ordinance introduced at last month's business meeting?
Yes, it was. We're in a time machine.
And most likely will be considered, voted, and I would imagine approved at next week's business meeting of council. That sets up a process by which valid residents, persons who either rent or own a property and live on a block with a 2-hour zone, can acquire a limited time permit for invitees, persons who are visiting from out of town, people who regularly come for whatever reason to your household. These permits will be applied for in person or online. They get reviewed internally to validate that, and what we need for that validation is, just like a residential permit, we need your proof of residency. Driver's license is a great way, just a picture of your driver's license with the address on it. If you're a new renter in town, maybe one of your rental agreements or a utility bill would help us determine that as well. And vehicle registration also is a good proof of residency. At which time then we would issue the permit. The permits are not a physical permit, the permits are license plate based. So we would validate that car in the system as a valid visitor by their license plate. The cost is $5 a day or $15 a week, and the valid permits automatically purge themselves from the systems after they've been valid for the set amount of time that they've been purchased for. So that's how the residential invitee permit we're proposing, how that process would work. And then the more substantial undertaking is the residential parking permit program as a whole. We're going to take our time with this because we think that there are 2 things about instituting this new program that are going to take a little bit of time. One of them mainly is education. We need to get the word out about how the new program is going to work and give people enough opportunity and time to prepare for, adjust, and acquire their permits that they need to. So we're not going to start rolling this thing out until January 1, 2020. That's our proposal. We're going to roll it out by zones. We're going to start with, there are 3 zones in the parking study. We're going to start with Zone 3, which is the south side, Zone 2, which is the 2-hour zones adjacent to our downtown area, and then Zone 1 would finally be the 3rd zone to be done. They'll be done on a 3-month rollout, so January 1 would be the south side zone, April 1 would be the downtown zone, and July 1st would be the remaining far north side zone, everything north of Woodbine Avenue, essentially. If you want more details about the geography of these zones, it's all in our parking study.
And the parking study's online, it's at the library, and you can pick one up in the office if you're desperately needing to read it again.
Page 28 shows you the zones. And a permit in Zone 1, for instance, would entitle the user to park on any block that's regulated for 2-hour parking longer than 2 hours within that zone. So that's going to be a significant change that we'll have to educate everybody about. In the past, your 2-hour parking permit had been valid only for the block that you live on. Now it's going to be valid for the entire zone in which you purchase it for. So in the case of Zone 1, that's the entire south side. So anywhere on the south side that has a 2-hour parking zone on the street, your Zone 1 permit would allow you to park there. You could park on Essex or Elmwood or Marion, wherever the zones are valid. The cost that we're proposing is an annual fee of $50 because we feel like the base rate has to be high enough to encourage persons to want to use their driveways and not get permits, encourage neighborhoods that maybe might want to think twice about whether they even really need a 2-hour zone in their neighborhoods. And also to generate revenue for some of our work that we're going to have to do going forward, which I'll get to in a second. So just like our old system, the new system would not limit the number of residential permits. You can get as many permits as you need, but each of them costs $50 a year. There is will be a commercial permit limit, a maximum of 3 per business. Note too that there's a significant expansion of enforcement hours. We're going from an enforcement hour of 8 to 6 Monday through Saturday, which is 60 hours a week, to an enforcement scenario that has Zone 1 and 2 from 8 to 8 and Zone 3 from noon to midnight. That's 112 hours of enforcement per week. That's almost doubling the amount of enforcement. We've had that conversation with John about like the increased burden that's going to put on the department. And we are going to have to change the way we do enforcement to do this. It doesn't mean we have to be out there every 112 hours enforcing every 2-hour zone at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night in Zone 3. It means we have to be clever about our enforcement, identify the areas that are having issues, and target our limited resources to effectively enforce the new system. The other thing that's going to take a lot of time is that with this new system, we're going to have to evaluate and purchase and replace and install signs. And that's just going to take a little bit of time. I think we had a total sign count of...
Last I remember it was like 700.
I want to say 500
It was like 700
signs.
something signs, but I don't remember specific
A
categories.
couple hundred of them are 2-hour zone signs.
Yeah.
So it's no small undertaking, but it is manageable. It's something we can tackle with enough planning, forethought, and time to do so. I met with Matt and the chief of police yesterday. We talked a little bit about enforcement changes. The new system is going to be entirely license plate based. So there won't be any stickers, there won't be any hang tags. It's going to be entirely license plate based.
That's 2 times you've been told there's no stickers. It will be license plate based. No stickers, you folks playing at home. Thank you.
Which means that our controller and officers are going to have to adapt to that methodology. There won't be any way to recognize a valid or invalid vehicle on a street until you've run the tag on it. Unfortunately, our parking system can run a tag with just a picture. You can take a picture with the app of the license plate, and the numbers populate the fields automatically. So we think it's pretty slick. So going forward, after we've started to do this, wash, rinse, repeat, is that 6 months after implementation, we're going to use the portion of the funds that will be raised from the new parking permit program. We think there could be as many as 800 permits. We won't know until they come in and buy them, but that's our best guess right now. Going forward, 6 months after implementation, we'll do a utilization study. That's a study that quantifies the supply and demand and how many spaces are actually used at different times of the day during the week and weekend. See if there's any changes from the utilization study in the parking study, which is our control data, our baseline data. We'll be using some of these funds for the design evaluation implementation that's discussed in the parking study on page 22. and 21 and 22, it talks about how the roads in Narberth need a makeover, need a do-over in some cases. They aren't functioning well, so we might want to consider changes to traffic circulation, pavement markings, parking on one side of the street or both sides of the street. All these questions would have to be answered during this redesign process, which we have in this moment coupled together with our paving program. So we are doing this process of evaluating parking right now with Windsor Avenue. But we could do it concurrent with future paving projects, or we could do it individually on streets that we want to address. The funds can also be used to upgrade technology like our downtown meters, and we're going to have to spend some time drafting the appropriate ordinance amendment between now and the end of the year to make this all work from a legal perspective. So that's the plan at this point. Plan and timing.
We're going to go around and take questions.
That's what we got.
Rob, any questions?
So the implementation, you said January 1st, 2020 for the south side. That would be the first phase.
Yeah.
And is there kind of built-in time for learning as we implement? I assume that if on the south side we run into some sort of glitch, we can adjust for the zone 2 and zone 3. That's kind of built into the timeline.
Yeah. I don't foresee problems with the system.
Okay.
I see problems with communication and people understanding that we've changed, late adopters. So we have email notification, website. We're going to contemplate some direct mailing, because I think that might be the quickest way to get the word out, most effective way to get the word out, using all three of those. And we also have the option in our enforcement, and this is a decision, it's not my decision, but it's a decision of the police department. We do have the possibility of issuing warnings for first. Yeah, you get one get out of jail free card.
I like that. Fran, any questions?
Will the snow emergency routes be all affected?
No, they would stay the same. And if I may too, nothing is changing about the geography of the 2-hour zones with this switchover. If there's a 2-hour zone on your street in 2019, it will be there in 2020. We're not making any changes to the geography of the enforcement. We're just layering on top of that these zones, which allows then cars to park in different areas within their zones.
Mayor, any questions?
Yeah, a couple. First, with the visitor parking, is there any way for people who have regular visitors, like weekly, for them to buy more than 1 week at a time? Or will it be week to week?
Currently it'd be week to week.
Week to week?
Yeah.
Okay, so every week they have to sign on and buy that visitor parking. Maybe it might be good to consider something for people who every week have a babysitter or a caretaker, so as not to make it a burdensome kind of thing. Maybe you can buy a monthly for one. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Well, I think going forward, it's a consideration for sure.
Yeah,
because we have heard that from residents that they do have longer-term care.
So that would be one issue.
Visitors.
So it jumped from a permit for $5 to $50. Well, I know you want to dissuade people from getting more than one, as many, but was there any thought to making the first permit less and then subsequent permits more?
We did think about that, but we're from the administrative angle in terms of us trying to figure out, is this card number 1 or 2 or 3? And also, and I'm sorry to say it, people are ingenious, and if there's a way to scheme, scam, get around the system, they will. So I think from our point of view, it's just easier for it to be one price per every car, regardless of whether you have a driveway or not, regardless of whether it's your first, second, or third. Just one price for each car. That way we don't have to deal with those kinds of situations.
And that was that's an annual fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would be a rolling annual fee. So Zone 1 permits would be valid January 1, 2020, expiring January 1, 2021. Zone 2 permits are valid April 1, 2020, expiring April 1, 2021. We wanted to stagger the renewal so we don't get hit with all the renewals
Okay.
at one time.
Will there
time of
be,
year.
will there be any sort of hardship accommodation?
An appeal, right.
An appeal for those who perhaps $50 is a hardship?
That's, I haven't thought of that.
I wonder if there can be criteria for some older residents or people who, for some of us, $50 is nothing. For others, it's something. It's substantial, and they need their vehicles. And so I wondered if some sort of accommodation could be made for those who meet the criteria for a hardship. Just a thought while we're crafting it. The additional enforcement time. Is there a particular reason why that was added?
The recommendation of the study was the south side would be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week.
No, I understand what it is. Can you explain why it was added?
It's explained in the paragraph, but I don't think they've fleshed it out in the way that you're asking the question. Okay, it's not directly answered.
So I think before implementing it, we should know why we're doing it.
I think it's in the supportive documents that we received when we were working with this group to come up with this final study. And as I remember it, I think there was a PowerPoint and some notes that I have. I will get out,
I'd like
drag out
to
as
take a
much
look
as I
at
have.
that.
And
Yeah, I'd
sure.
like to take a look at that.
Sure. I have a, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's-
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. So the guest pass price is $5 a day and that is weekly, right? Currently?
$5 a day or $15 a week.
Or $15 a week. Okay. I agree that there should be some amount of appeals process, and I get that. So here's, a couple other things. ADA compliance spots, I know that we're working with paving and we're talking about changing signs, we're talking about increased enforcement, but ADA compliant parking spaces in our downtown in each one of these zones is necessary, is absolutely what's been asked for. And so if we could include this in our process going forward and some sort of assessment about where they should go and how they should go, I think it's important to have at least one on Haverford Avenue, at least more than one in the business zones, and maybe one in the, not one, but some sort of assessment process about where to put them in the other zones. I think it's important. For me, it's important to have those. So I'm asking for that to be somehow included in what we're doing. Business owners have 3 per business, and that's at $50 each, am I right?
Correct.
Thank you. So business owners, there you go. 3 employees, yourself, someone else. So we're taking pictures of license plates, my favorite issue, technology and your lack of privacy, Matt West. Software of what we're using, how long is this picture of my license plate going to sit? Where is it sitting? How long is it sitting? Who gets to see it? What are we doing with it?
Okay.
Because I don't like that. I understand we need it. I just don't want to hear about long-term storage and encroaching on people's rights. I don't like that.
My understanding is that our parking study or parking provider utilizes Microsoft, whatever their name of their server is, and they keep them for 30 days.
30 days. And who has access to the license plate?
Just us,
Who's us?
the borough.
Ask the school district who us is, because they learned the hard way who us was. We have to name names
I feel
and know
like
which
you're
department and which, no. I'm just saying I've been through this before, where somebody said, just us, and we were like, oh, okay, we walked away, and then everybody got in trouble.
Anybody who has access to the server. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to go technical.
Okay. We'll talk about it then. I guess we're not gonna
And if
put
you don't
people's
want
names.
that, then stop using your mobile phone. and stop
Yeah,
using
listen,
your
I get it.
to get to us.
I get it. But it is about, what we're doing with it and how we're doing with it. And will the information be shared outside of maybe Chief Gallagher, outside of the borough for any reason?
To the courts.
To the courts, I like that.
That's the only people that we share.
That's it?
with.
So it won't be shared other than for what our purposes are.
Nope.
Thank you. There was one other.
Could it be shared to the state for particular reasons?
That's the court.
Oh,
So district,
They
the
would have to
district
send us.
justice, for us,
Right.
for it to go to the district justice, it goes into the AOPC,
okay,
gets a state citation.
okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
All right. Any other questions regarding parking, which I'm sure once we go home and think about it and hear from the public, we'll have more questions. But thank you, Sean. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chief Gallagher and Mayor, for entertaining those ideas. The one question I have left is, will there be a ticket price increase? So we're saying that the parking pass is $50. So let's say I don't buy my pass and I'm still putting my car on the street. And like you said, I'm trying to move my car around or whatever I'm doing to avoid paying the $50. Is there a comparable ticket price that matches that fee, or are we staying at the same dollar amount for a parking ticket?
I think I'm flexible what the base fee for a fine should be, but I think what we would like to see change
Right.
is this idea that a ticket is $15 and then escalates after 48 hours of non-payment, because that's just a difficult variable to manage. What do you do about the person who gets a ticket 6 p.m. on a Friday and they don't have access to the internet and they can't come in on Saturday and Sunday to pay it, and they're trying to pay it and now it's 3 days late and their cost is escalated. I would just like to get rid of the escalator, that $5 escalator. So our proposal was to make the fines $20.
Great.
We can make the fines whatever we want them to be, but I want to get rid of the escalator because it's a variable we don't need to be managing.
All right. And how did we, well, we'll talk about that. I think that's John's business, right? Welcome. We'll deal with that. Would you like to talk about block party season, block parties?
I just wanted to add, before we get off the topic of the LPR, just so the public knows, with the license plate reader feature, that when we use that handheld device to take that picture, that is just within the UPS system and is not running your tag for an expired license, for an expired tag, or any violations like that. There is no violations for wanted persons or a car. It doesn't work that way. So it's just within the United Public Safety System. I think that's just important for us to note on camera, that
Absolutely.
your tag is not being run in National Crime Information Center. It's not being run
Thank you,
in
John.
Queen. It is just basically for parking enforcement purposes only.
Yep.
And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
And that's what needed to be said, and that's where we're trying to go, is that it's just going to stay within the borough, and then, unless, of course, the court comes.
I think generally overall for the public to know is they have no
Absolutely.
worries about,
Thank you.
violation of privacy, those things. The information that is auto-populated is based on parking concern only.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's what, appreciate that very much. So block parties,
I'm going to hand that over to.
Matt, talk to us about block party. Oh, I'm sorry, here's a question from the public right away, and I apologize, Matt. Is this, what about our, the national conversation comes to our door one more time. What about ICE? What about using this information for those that are here in the borough or in our area, or are undocumented or documented and are being arrested or reported to police?
This system does not communicate like that.
This system does not communicate like that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry, Matt.
No.
Back to you and block parties.
It's all good.
Block party season.
Sure. Past couple of years, we've been dealing with kind of on an ad hoc basis of dealing with block party requests. There wasn't ever really any formal process, and working in coordination with Michelle and Ed downstairs. Those are the two folks in our office who interact with block parties most frequently. We were asked, I was asked to come up with a standardized form, an application form. After studying both Lower Merion's request form, and I found a better example, Springfield Township, I created our own, and it's a 2-page document just to kind of memorialize these things. I know it's pretty text heavy, but there's a lot of important information on there. Just to review it, we're looking at the event information. Where is the street going to be closed? We will also require a petition of residents along that block. We're asking for 75% of the residents along that block, since that would represent a strong majority, and sign a petition on page 2. And then there's part 3 where the applicant has to sign the document where all the provided information is true, that the Public Works Department will deliver barricades, residents will assume total responsibility for bagging and removing trash until regular collection day. The street will be left in clean and safe condition, open to traffic no later than 9 p.m. Commercial vehicles are admitted for delivery purposes, so on and so forth. Noise ordinance will not be violated. And then it goes through the borough review process, police review, fire review, and public works. And there it is, living, breathing document. Looking forward to turning this on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How did we arrive at the, and I'm going to say this because I know what goes on, how do we arrive at 9 p.m.?
On that noise ordinance related?
All right. I may have to go back and review that because that's not something that's going to work for the people in this town. So, as we know, our friends on Grayling Avenue tend to have quite a wild time and close the street, and there's live music, and everybody's invited. But we do ask if you are, other than filling out this document, and thank you, Matt, for creating it. I appreciate it. Just so we have a record of what's going on, so the police department knows, the fire department knows that there are people in the street on Grayling today, so we can't use Grayling, or we're not going to go down Grayling today. So that's important for everybody to have those pieces of communication. We do ask that you talk to the people on the streets behind you or next to you and make sure your neighbors know that you're going to put up barricades and there's going to be noise. It's just a courtesy. It's what we do. And in fact, I encourage you to invite those neighbors over as well and make it more than one street. So thank you very much, Matt. What do we got? Health and safety inspections?
I don't have much to report today other than that we're developing a schedule with the building code official as to what high value and commercial properties are going to be scheduled for inspections for fire, health, and safety issues. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay.
We should have something together by the next time
Great.
we meet.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll go back to, right, we discussed 118, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we checked that one. Okay, so we can go back to the beginning of the agenda if you don't mind. Chief Gallagher, would you like to talk to us about what you've given us? Or do you have it? Do you need it?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to let everybody know that everything pretty much stays static with our status of command report. We still have 6 full-time sworn officers, myself included, so you have 5 officers and 1 chief. We have 3 non-sworn employees, which is 1 parking controller and 2 school crossing guards. Our vehicles are fully operational. We have 1 mechanical issue on 1, but other than that, all our fleet is working. It's on a preventive maintenance schedule. As Sean said in a recent meeting, our fleet is looking better than it's looked before, and it certainly has, and those cars are out there working. And that includes our parking enforcement car as well. In terms of training for the police department, I think the most important thing is some of the things that we've been stressing for the past 4 meetings, that we are completely up to date with MPO standards, and we're completely up to date with our firearms training and legal updates, which are currently in progress. The other training, which is being completed, we talked about rifle recertifications, rapid response, emergency vehicle operations, tactics. The most important achievement that we received recently, that we've accomplished recently rather, is mental health training to intervene for different people that have mental health issues throughout the borough. The officers have done a tremendous job even dealing with that stuff before this training took effect. But this will further enhance their skills and help with professional development. Also, in addition to that, the one thing that I'm certainly pleased to announce is that all police officers are now certified under International Police Mountain Bike Association. All officers are bike certified. We recently completed a training the last week of April into May 3rd for Officer Dan Dutton, who trained with Lower Merion, as you know, for different details like the Memorial Day Parade, July 4th, the Narberth. We work closely in concert with Lower Merion, so we wanted to make sure that training went along with Officer Rich Waylock and the other trainers from Lower Merion because they'll work together. So we now have our season, our 2019 summer bike season in effect. So people, in Narberth are going to see the bikes back out there again throughout the season.
If I can point out, they were in fact used during the recent Narberth run.
They, in fact, you're absolutely right. And Mayor, to great effect, because we were able to use those bikes to the back and to the sides and to make sure that we ensured runner safety throughout the entire run. The most important part where they came into play was in Lower Merion when we dropped in, where we really had no detail officers on that side of the run. The bike officers took over for the safety of the participants.
Right.
So it really worked out well, and that was the first time that we've seen them, and we're going to see them for the Memorial Day Parade and throughout the summer for bike details in the downtown area. And obviously it's a welcome event that we look forward to every year once the weather breaks, and we try to keep them out there as long as possible. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that everything in terms of equipment is fully functional. There is one issue that I'd like to talk about, but I cannot do that on camera as it's law enforcement sensitive information. So Mayor, after we're done, maybe we can have a conversation when we're done. And that's it. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Rob, any questions?
Just thanks to the chief for the bike details. Really appreciate that. I think the police are really visible, and it's great for our decarbonizing goals.
I agree. Fran, anything?
Very quiet month, for which we are always appreciative. 22 alarms, 5 in a borough. No significant calls, fortunately. And we were in service for 4.5 hours approximately. The only real update is that we've recently taken delivery of new breathing apparatus for the members, which we purchased through a grant that we were a partner with the Lower Merion Fire Department, and we probably paid about between 1/5 and 1/4 of what the cost of all new breathing apparatus would have cost had we purchased it off the rack, so to speak. And that every new piece of breathing apparatus will be equipped with a thermal imaging camera, which allows the firefighters to detect heat through the smoke. Basically makes the smoke invisible and lets you see a heat source like a fire or a body that is down. And it's a massive aid in locating trapped victims at a fire. And now, instead of having one person on maybe a 3-man hose team, but we'll have a thermal imaging camera, each air pack will be equipped with its own thermal imaging camera. So it should be a great aid when those types of situations that we certainly hope don't crop up very often, but when they do, it's the kind of thing that can be the difference between getting a victim out in a minute and getting a victim out in 10 minutes, and that can be the difference between life and death. So there's a significant step up. We have delivery, we have not put them in service, we have to train on them first, but we're very excited about adding these. So that's about it.
Thank you, Fran. Fran, the police department, I'm sure Public Works and council as a whole has implemented a CIP, which is like a long-term planning financial document for the needs of both the borough, the police department, and each department. And I guess what I'm asking, Fran, is there any conversation you're having with your financial team on your side about CIP or long-term financial planning for the fire department?
Well, the fire company has always maintained an equipment replacement fund going back 70, 80 years. So it's not something we need to start, because we have always had it in cooperation with the borough. Both the borough and the fire company make a contribution every year, which is why when we purchased a new piece of apparatus that went into service this year, there was no loan or any other type of financing involved, because we had saved the money knowing that the purchase was coming. So we've been doing this for a long, long time.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, anything you'd like to?
Nothing else.
I have a question. Can you talk about the Memorial Day Parade? What are the details? What do we know? What's happening?
Myself and John already met yesterday. The parade is going to be on May 27th, Memorial Day. We're looking for obviously a robust event. We're going to have the parade, which is probably going to start, I think, right around 9:30, and it's going to last till about 10:45, and then we're going to have our gathering at the memorial. So we're getting ready. We're going to have enough officers on duty, and myself and John are going to continue to meet as the event approaches.
Anything?
I have not been approached by Mr. Bernardi, but we'll connect in the near future to
Sure.
finalize details.
So
We just had that meeting yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
We'll be connecting to finalize details.
Absolutely. So, the parade's been going on forever. And so if you're an organization and need to reach out or want to participate, I know bikes were included a couple years ago. We had kids decorate, everybody decorating bikes and included in all organizations are able to march in the parade. But certainly as soon as we get a little more information, we'll put that back out to the public about how they can participate or in fact just stand and watch the parade. Would be very nice.
And just to let everybody know, there will be a gathering at the American Legion after the event.
After the event. Thank you so much. Sean, anything?
No.
Matt, anything?
Nothing.
Anyone, anything? Members, Ed, anything? Mr. Spear, anything? Anyone have anything they'd like to put out?
Yeah, I know if you don't mind.
No, I know. Fine.
We're going to be meeting, we haven't set a date yet, John, but you, me, and Matt, we're going to be having that capital improvement planning conversation for the police department as well. And start cycling that information up through council, what the department's needs are.
Great. And it is May, but the conversations about budgeting and what's going forward start now.
Right.
Actually, they start in April. And then we have those conversations as we walk towards September and finalization in the final months of the year. I know it's odd to start putting that out there, but it is part of the process. It's the other pieces that we do. So thank you very much. And nothing else on the table. We're going to be adjourned. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.